Here's an interesting one for the IT world. Biosilicon. This is a diatom, which is made of silicates. And so silicon, which we make right now, it's part of our carcinogenic problem in the manufacture of our chips. This is a biomineralization process that's now being mimicked. This is at UC Santa Barbara. Look at these diatoms. This is from Ernst Haenkel's work. Imagine being able to, and again, it's a templated process, and it solidifies out of a liquid process. Imagine being able to have that sort of structure coming out at room temperature. Imagine being able to make perfect lenses. On the left, this is a brittle star. It's covered with lenses that the people at Lucent Technologies have found have no distortion whatsoever. It's one of the most distortion-free lenses we know of, and there are many of them all over its entire body. What's interesting, again, is that it self-assembles. A woman named Joanna Eisenberg at Lucent is now learning to do this in a low-temperature process to create these sort of lenses. She's also looking at fiber optics. That's a sea sponge that has a fiber optic. Down at the very base of it, there's fiber optics that work better than ours, actually, to move light, but you can tie them in a knot. They're incredibly flexible. Here's another big idea, CO2 as a feedstock. A guy named Jeff Coates at Cornell said to himself, you know, plants do not see CO2 as the biggest poison of our time. We see it that way. Plants are busy making long chains of starches and glucose, right, out of CO2. He's found a way, he's found a catalyst, and he's found a way to take CO2 and make it into polycarbonates, biodegradable plastics out of CO2. How plant-like. Solar transformations. The most exciting one, there are people who are mimicking the energy harvesting device inside of purple bacterium, the people at ASU. Even more interesting lately, in the last couple of weeks, people have seen that there's an enzyme called a hydrogenase that's able to evolve hydrogen from proton and electrons and is able to take hydrogen up. Basically what's happening in a fuel cell, in the anode of a fuel cell, and in a reversible fuel cell. In our fuel cells, we do it with platinum. Life does it with a very, very common iron. And a team has now just been able to mimic that hydrogen juggling hydrogenase. That's very exciting for fuel cells, to be able to do that without platinum. Power of shape, here's a whale. We've seen that the fins of this whale have tubercles on them, and those little bumps actually increase efficiency in, for instance, the edge of an airplane, increase efficiency by about 32%, which is an amazing fossil fuel savings if we were just to put that on the edge of a wing. Color without pigments. This peacock is creating color with shape. Light comes through, it bounces back off the layers. It's called thin film interference. Imagine being able to self-assemble products with the last few layers playing with light to create color. Imagine being able to create a shape on the outside of a surface so that it's self-cleaning with just water. That's what a leaf does. See that up-close picture? It's a ball of water, and those are dirt particles, and that's an up-close picture of a lotus leaf. There's a company making a product called Lotusin, which mimics, when the building facade paint dries, it mimics the bumps in a self-cleaning leaf, and rainwater cleans the building. Wow. Water is going to be our big, grand challenge. Quenching thirst. Here are two organisms that pull water. The one on the left is the Namibian beetle, pulling water out of fog. The one on the right is a pill bug, pulls water out of air, does not drink fresh water. Pulling water out of Monterey fog and out of the sweaty air in Atlanta before it gets into a building are key technologies. Separation technologies are going to be extremely important. What if we were to say no more hard rock mining? What if we were to separate out metals from waste streams? Small amounts of metals in water. That's what microbes do. They chelate metals out of water. There's a company here in San Francisco called MR3 that is embedding mimics of the microbes' molecules on filters to mine waste streams. Green chemistry is chemistry in water. We do chemistry in organic solvents. This is a picture of the spinnerets coming out of a spider, okay, and the silk being formed from a spider. Isn't that beautiful? Green chemistry is replacing our industrial chemistry with nature's recipe book. It's not easy because life uses only a subset of the elements in the periodic table. And we use all of them, even the toxic ones. To figure out the elegant recipes that would take the small subset of the periodic table and create miracle materials like that silk is the task of green chemistry. Timed degradation, packaging that is good until you don't want it to be good anymore and dissolves on cue. That's a mussel you can find in the waters out here, and the threads holding it to a rock are timed at exactly 2 years they begin to dissolve. Healing. This is a good one. That little guy over there is a tardigrade. There is a problem with vaccines around the world not getting to patients. And the reason is that the refrigeration somehow gets broken. What's called the cold chain gets broken. A guy named Bruce Rosner looked at the tardigrade, which dries out completely and yet stays alive for months and months and months and is able to regenerate itself. And he found a way to dry out vaccines, encase them in the same sort of sugar capsules as the tardigrade has within its cells, meaning that vaccines no longer need to be refrigerated. They can be put in a glove compartment. Okay? Learning from organisms, this is a session about water, learning about organisms that can do without water in order to create a vaccine that lasts and lasts and lasts without refrigeration. I'm not going to get to 12. But what I am going to do is tell you that the most important thing, besides all of these adaptations, is the fact that these organisms have figured out a way to do the amazing things they do while taking care of the place that's going to take care of their offspring. When they're involved in foreplay, they're thinking about something very, very important, and that's having their genetic material remain 10,000 generations from now. And that means finding a way to do what they do without destroying the place that'll take care of their offspring. That's the biggest design challenge. Luckily, there are millions and millions of geniuses willing to gift us with their best ideas. Good luck having a conversation with them. Thank you.
Leave it on. Talk about foreplay. We need to get to 12, but really quickly. It's
really?
Yeah, just like, like the 10-second version of 10, 11, and 12. Because your slides are so gorgeous and the ideas are so big, I can't stand to let you go down without seeing 10, 11, and 12.
Put this back. Okay, I'll just hold this thing. Okay, great. Okay, so that's the healing one. Sensing and responding, feedback is a huge thing. This is a locust. There are going to be 80 million of them in a square kilometer, and yet they don't collide with one another. And yet we have 3.6 million car collisions a year. Right? There's a person at Newcastle who has figured out that it's a very large neuron, and she's actually figuring out how to make a collision avoidance circuitry based on this very large neuron in the locust. This is a huge and important one, number 11, and that's the growing fertility. That means, net fertility farming. We should be growing fertility, and oh yes, we get food too, because we have to grow the capacity of this planet to create more and more opportunities for life. And really, that's what other organisms do as well. In ensemble, that's what whole ecosystems do. They create more and more opportunities for life. Our farming has done the opposite. So farming based on how a prairie builds soil, ranching based on how a native ungulate herd actually increases the health of the range, even wastewater treatment based on how a marsh not only cleans the water, but creates incredibly sparkling productivity. This is the simple design brief. I mean, it looks simple because the system over 3.8 billion years has worked this out. That is, those organisms that have not been able to figure out how to enhance or sweeten their places are not around to tell us about it. That's the 12th one. Life, and this is the secret trick. This is the magic trick. Life creates conditions conducive to life. It builds soil. It cleans air. It cleans water. It mixes the cocktail of gases that you and I need to live. And it does that in the middle of having great foreplay and meeting their needs. So it's not mutually exclusive. We have to find a way to meet our needs while making of this place an Eden.
Janine, thank you so much.